Okay, so doubts from sequence and series. Uh, this is exercise 1, question number 39. Okay. The common difference D of the AP in which T7 is 9. The question is asking common difference D in an AP in which T7 is equal to 9 and T1, T and T1, T2, T7 is least. T1, T2, T7 is least. Okay, that is not very clear, but let's see what happens.
Yeah, so I didn't understand what that meant.
1 second, just hold on, I'm getting a call. Okay.
Yeah, so yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So T7 value is given to you. So if you write seventh term of an AP, if the common first term is A, common difference is D, then seventh term will be A plus 6D, right?
Yeah.
So that is equal to 9 is given. And this is least. So what do we mean by that? So let's see. First term will be what? A, right?
Yeah.
Second term will be A plus D. And
Yeah.
seventh term will be A plus 6D.
Yeah.
Is least minimum. Okay. Okay, so basically, if this expression is supposed to be minimum, then we have to minimize the value of the, like there will be some value of D for which it will be minimum, no?
Yes, sir.
Right? And notice that A plus 60 is already 9. So this is actually just 9 into A plus D, right?
Yeah.
So you have to basically minimize this value, this whole thing. So this is equal to 9A square plus 9AD, right?
Yeah.
So the minimum value of this will happen, but you will get in terms of, okay, A plus 60 is 9 and okay. So notice that A plus 60 is 9 tells you that 60 is equal to 9 minus A, right?
Yeah.
Or actually, rather you should do A is equal to 9 minus 60, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
here, if you put A instead of A, if you put 9 minus 6D, right? In this expression.
Yeah.
So you will get 9 into A is 9 minus 6D and A plus D is 9 minus 5D, right?
Yeah.
This is the whole expression, and this becomes this quadratic you have to minimize. So it is 81 minus 54 minus 45, so minus 99D plus 30D square and into 9, right? This expression has to take a minimum value, right?
Yeah.
So there will be some value of D for which it will be minimum. I will first do 3 common, so it will be 27 into 27 minus 33D plus 10D square. Okay, so 270 and okay. Uh, okay, okay. So 10D square minus this is becoming uh, this is a quadratic like this, upward facing quadratic because 10 is positive, right?
Yes.
Minimum value will happen at D is equal to minus B by 2A. So minus B is minus 33, so plus 33 by 2 times A, 2 times A, so 20. 33 by 20 is the value of D at which minimum value will happen. What am I doing? I'm saying that a quadratic expression like this, right? If y is equal to ax square plus bx plus c, correct?
Yeah.
Then the value of y is minimum at this lowermost point, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And this happens at x is equal to minus b by 2a. This is the point. So why does that happen there? Because this quadratic can be written as x square plus b by ax plus c by a, and this can be written as x square plus 2 times b by 2ax plus b square by 4a square plus c by a minus b square by 4a square. You understand what I'm doing? I'm completing the square.
Yes, sir.
Are you getting it, this thing?
Yes, sir.
So I am writing it so that I can make it a perfect square. X plus b by 2a whole square plus 4ac minus b square by 4a square and multiplied by a. So y is equal to this. This is the same thing. Now this square is generally always greater than equal to 0, right?
Yeah.
But at x is equal to minus b by 2a, the value of this will become, this square root will disappear, the square will become 0, right? And the whole thing will become, correct?
Yes, sir.
So that will be the lowest value, because other values, this square is not 0, it is positive. So it will add up, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So that is what I am doing. So here, what I had was T1, T7 and T5, right?
Yeah.
T5 was there, no? No,
So it was,
T6 or
yeah.
something. T2 was there, right? It was T1, T2, T7, right? That is equal to A into A plus D into A plus 6D, and T7 is anyway 9, so this becomes 9 into A plus D, and we know that uh, A plus 6D is equal to 9, right? T7 is 9, right?
Yeah.
So A will be equal to 9 minus 6D, and A plus D will be equal to 9 minus 5D, right?
Yeah.
So this is just 9 into 9 minus 60 into 9 minus 5D, right?
Yeah.
Which gave us the original 27 into, there is a quadratic that comes in D square, right?
Yeah.
30D square minus 99D plus 81 and divided by 3. You can take 3 common outside, so it will become 9 or multiplied by 3. So it will become 27 into 10D square minus 33D plus 27. Now this value has to be minimum. We just now saw the theory that minimum of a quadratic happens at x is equal to minus b by 2a. In this case, it will be d is equal to minus b. B is minus 33, so plus 33 by 2 into a, which is 20.
Okay, sir. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
At that value, the quadratic will take lowest value. So the common difference is obtained, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
So that is why the 33 by 20 has come.
Okay, sir. Yeah. I understand.
Okay, what else?
So in question number 35,
Hmm.
I got I I got the answer very close to it, but I don't know what I did wrong.
Okay.
I got 334 into 2003 into 2002.
Hmm. What is the answer?
I don't know the answer, but
So it is saying that if 1 square plus 2 square and so on till 2003 square,
yeah.
2003 square is equal to 2003 into 4007 into 334.
Yeah.
2003 into 4007 into 334, right?
I got the value which is not there in any of the only value which is not there in any of the options, 2002.
Okay. And other thing that is given is 1 into 2003 plus 2 into 2002 plus 2 into 2002 plus so on, 3 into 2001 and so on till 2003 into 1. 3 into 2001 and so on till 2003 into 1 is equal to, they are saying that is equal to 2003 into 334 into x. And you have to find x, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Fine. So notice that the first thing is just the sum of squares, right?
Yeah.
Sum of first n squares, 1 to 2003 r square, right?
Yeah.
This is a formula, r into r plus 1 into 2r plus 1 by 6.
Yes, sir.
N into n plus 1. This is n, right? Correct. So the value has been given to you, this value. Ultimately, you have to find this series value, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So let's try to understand this series. Each term of this series, can we write a general rth term? General rth term will be r into 2004 minus r, no?
Oh, okay. I took 2003.
2003 minus r minus 1 it will be, no?
Yeah, sir. Yeah. Okay, sir. I understood our mistake then.
Yeah. It will be 2004 minus r, it will fit, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And r goes from 1 to 2003, right?
Yes, sir.
So this will become 2004 into r minus r square, right?
Yeah.
And you have to do the summation of this.
Yeah.
So this summation will be 2004 into 1 to 2003. So it will be 2 r into r plus 1. So 2004 by 2, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Minus sum of first 2003 squares, which is this only.
Yeah.
So that is 2003 into 4007 into 334, right?
Yes.
So now here, this becomes 1002, right? And 2003 you can take common, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. So 2003, actually 2003 into 334 you can take common, right? Because 2003 into 334, 3 will come from here and 2004 will be left, right?
Okay. Yes.
3 into 2004 minus, this is 2003 and 334 common, 4007. So 6012 minus 4007, that is equal to
2005.
2005, right? So the answer will be 2003 into 334 into 2005, which is x.
Yes.
Correct. So you have to be careful about forming the rth term.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay, what else?
So I will get 42.
42. So 42 is if 1, 2, 3 are first terms, 1, 3, 5 are common differences in S1, S2. Okay. There are P APs. S1 is equal to 1 plus, what is the common difference of the first AP? 1, right?
1. Yeah.
So 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus till how many terms? Sum of n terms, right?
Yeah.
So n, right? S2 is first term of the second AP is 2 and common difference is now 3, 5, 1, 3, 5. Okay. So first term is 2, common difference is 3. So 2 plus 5 plus 8 and so on, right?
Yes, sir.
N terms. And so this one will be 3 plus, now common difference is 5. So 8 plus 13 plus so on n terms and so on. You have to go till p, and p is p plus. Now common difference in this case, common difference of the first AP was 1, second AP was 3, third AP was 5. So pth AP is 2p plus 1. No, 2p minus 1.
Yes.
See, 2 into 1 minus 1, 2 into 2 minus 1, 2 into 3 minus 1, right?
Yeah. Yes. Sir. Yes.
So the second term will be p plus 2p minus 1, so 3p minus 1. Then it will be 2p minus 1 added again, so 5p minus 2, and so on. N terms, right? Correct. You have to find the sum of this, right? Okay. Sum of S1 to SP. Okay. Okay, so instead of doing it like this, what I can do is S of rth AP, right?
So how do we find the second term of the SP?
Second term will be first term plus common difference, no? Right? Common difference is 2p minus 1.
Okay, sir. Yeah.
Huh? Correct, no? First term was p, second term common difference is 2p minus 1.
Yes. Sir.
But let's focus our attention on the rth AP. Rth AP is starting with r, and it has common difference of 2r minus 1. So r plus 2r, 3r minus 1, and so on, right? And n terms, right? Correct?
Yes.
So sum of that AP will be n by 2 into 2a. 2a is 2r plus 2a plus n minus 1 into d. So n minus 1 into d. d is 2r minus 1, right? This
Yeah.
is the thing.
Yeah.
So this becomes nr plus n into n minus 1 by 2 into 2r minus 1, right? This is the sum of the rth AP, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So just copy this down, this value, S of r.
Yeah.
And what we will do is we'll sum the S of r from 1 to p, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, I'll do it here only on top. So if I want to do the summation of S of r from r is equal to 1 to p, I have to basically sum up nr plus n into n minus 1 by 2 into 2r minus 1 from 1 to p, right? So here the variation is in the r variable, right? N variable is constant, right? So this will be n into summation of 1 to r p is going to be p into p plus 1 by 2, right?
Yes.
Plus this one will become n into n minus 1 into p plus 1 by 2 minus n into n minus 1 by 2 into p. I have summed up all the terms, this and this.
Yeah. Yes. Sir.
So now it is about making sure that you don't make mistakes while taking common and simplifying. So let's just do it. From all of them, I can take p by 2 common and then simplify. P by 2 common. This one becomes np plus n. This one becomes n square minus n into p plus 1 minus n square minus n into p, right?
Yeah.
So plus n square minus n into p will cancel the whole second this term, right? So what will be left is plus n square minus n. So np plus n square minus n. So this becomes n into p by 2 into p plus n, right?
Yeah. Yes.
That is the value of the overall sum. This is equal to summation of S of R from 1 to P.
Yes.
So it is just about making sure that you can write the sum of any one any one AP, and you have to set it up in such a way that if you vary your variable, then you should cover all the different AP sums, right? S1 to R.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah.
You are understanding these summations, no?
Yes, sir. I understood.
Okay. Next one is what?
Um, yeah, I got all the other questions. So
Uh-huh.
I had an exam, I had a math exam last week.
Ah,
So I have a few doubts from that.
you can ask.
Yes, I'll send it soon.
Yeah. You can send on WhatsApp.
Yeah, so 1 second. Yes, sir.
Okay. If A and B are having 99 elements in common, this one.
Yeah.
Okay. This was in your exam.
Yes, sir.
If two sets A and B have 99 elements in common, then the number of elements common in each of the two sets, A cross B and B cross A cross B cross A, have how many common elements? Okay. The best thing to do the best way to do such questions and get an intuition is to take small cases. Okay. So take your small a, like 2, 3, 1, 4. This is A, right? And let's say B is 3, 4, 5, 6, right?
Yeah.
So right now they have how many elements in common? Two? Two elements in common, right?
Yeah.
Right. So A cross B will have actually 16 terms, right? A cross B set is the Cartesian product, right?
Yeah.
It will have 16 terms.
Yes.
I should have taken actually just three. Let's take three only. So for example, I will remove 1 and I will remove 6, okay? So A cross B will have 9 elements, no?
Yeah.
So what is A cross B? I can just list it out. 2, 3, 2, 4, 2, 5, 3, 3, 3, 4, 3, 5, 4, 3, 4, 4, 4, 5, right?
Yeah.
Correct. And what is B cross A? B cross A is 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 3, and 3 4, and then 4 2, 4 3, and 4 4, and then 5 2, 5 3, and 5 4, right?
Yeah.
Correct. So now common elements here, ordered pairs, the order matters, right? So this is not a common element,
Yes, sir. Yeah.
right? So 3 2, 3 2, is it here somewhere? No. 3 3 is clearly common, and 3 4 is there, and 4 2, is it there somewhere here? No.
Yes, sir.
4 3 is there, 4 4 is there. Similarly, 5 2 is not there, 5 3 is not there, and 5 4 is also not there, right?
Yeah.
So how many common elements are coming? 4, right?
4. Yeah.
4 common elements. A and B had 2 elements in common, and A cross B and B cross A had 4 elements in common,
Yeah.
right? That quickly gives you the idea of what will happen, right?
Yeah.
So, so one more check we can do. We can do a check for. So let's think through it theoretically. If A and B have 99 elements in common, so let's say the common elements are called A1, A2, A3, and so on till A99, right?
Yeah.
Now A has some other elements. A has some other elements, say X, Y, Z, and so on, right?
Yeah.
And B has some other elements, P, Q, and these common elements, and R, right?
Yeah.
Correct. Now, when you form A cross B, it will be a collection of ordered pairs, and ordered pairs will be XA1, right? And so on, right?
Yeah.
XP, XQ, and so on. But when you form B cross A, the ordered pairs will be PX and PQ, PY, and so on. No?
Yeah.
So those cannot be common ever, right?
Yeah.
This with this will not give any common stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because the opposite B cross A ordered pair will have the opposite order, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So let's think about elements like this. A1, A1. That will work out,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So that will work out. And A2, A1, A2. There will be an A2, A1 there, right?
Yeah.
But there will also be an A1, A2 here, no?
Okay. Yeah. Yes.
Right? So that will also work out, right? So notice that A1, A2 will be there in this A1, A2 will be there here, and A2, A1 will also be here. No?
Yeah.
Here, when you form A1, A2 can be formed, and A2, A1 can be formed. No?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yes.
each common element is giving
Yeah.
two ordered pairs,
Yes, sir.
and B cross A will also give such two ordered pairs. No?
Yeah.
So now it is obvious that it should be 2 power 99 common elements.
Yeah.
You understand why it is happening? Because there will be an A1, A2 ordered pair, and there will be also an A2, A1 ordered pair,
Yes.
right? Correct.
Yeah. Understood, sir.
So that's why when there was a smaller group, we got two common elements, we got 2 power square, 4 common elements in A cross B and B cross
Yes, sir.
A. Okay. You can ask any other questions also if there are.
Yes.
Okay. The second one is sum to n terms of this series. This one, no?
Yeah.
Okay. Question is sum to n terms of the series 1 by 2 plus 3 by 4 plus 7 by 8 plus 15 by 16 and so on till n terms. Now, now this is easy because you can notice something special about these numbers. Half can be written as 1 minus half. This can be written as 1 minus 1 by 4. Third one can be written as 1 minus 1 by 8.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
So last one can be written as nth one can be written as 1 minus 1 by 2 power n.
Yeah.
So this is the series 1 minus 1 by 2 power 1, 2 power 2, 2 power 3, 2 power 4 and so on, right? So if you add up n such terms, basically n will come n minus and you have to sum up this.
Yeah. Yes, I got it.
So now you can do a GP formula.
Yeah. Yeah.
First term is half, common ratio is half.
Yeah.
So apply GP formula here, you'll get the answer.
Yes.
So here you just have to spot the fact that 7 by 8, 15 by 16, 3 by 4 are nice numbers.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
You're sending something more.
Yeah, so
Mhm. Okay. Uh, okay. Question 36. The first term is 10 power 9 plus 2 into 11 power 1 into 10 power 10 power what? Second one?
so one second.
8, I think.
Yes, it's 8.
8 plus 3 into 11 power 2 and 10 power 7 and so on till 10 into 11 power 0.
Yes, it's 10 into
11 power 9, I think,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, is equal to k into 10 power 9. Find k. Okay, so, okay. See, powers of 10 are decreasing and finally it has become 10 power 0, right?
Yeah.
And powers of 11 are increasing. It started with 11 power 0 and became 11 power 9 and last term had 10 power 0, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So now you see, if you write 1 into 11 power 0 into 10 power 9, then it is a nice pattern, right?
Yeah.
1 goes from, R goes from 1 to 10. Powers here go from 0 to 9 for 11 and from 9 to 0 for 10,
Yeah.
right? So if I write TR, rth term here, it will be R into 11 to the power R minus 1, right? Into uh, 10 to the power 9 minus R, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Correct. This is my thing. Okay.
So, but
Hmm.
like, if we go for the
Hmm.
first term, if we take 0,
Hmm.
like to get 10, we have to take R as 0, right?
To get 10, where?
To get 10 to the power 9, we have to take R as 0.
10 to the power 9, yeah, R as 0. Oh, yeah, that is wrong. Wait, wait.
Yeah.
So, yeah, yeah. So, 11 power, you can write 10 minus R. 11 power 10 minus R and 10 power uh 11 power 10 minus R, nahi. 11 power R and 10 power 10 minus R. Now it is fine, right?
Yeah. Yes.
When you start from R is equal to, okay, wait, then also it's not fine. It's R minus 1, no?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
1 should start off this one.
Yeah.
And 2, it will become this one. Correct. Now it is correct, right? So, okay. Now we have to do the sum of this series from R is equal to 1 to final term will be 10, right? Of R into 11 power R minus 1 into 10 power 10 minus R. So this thing, let's simplify it a little bit. R into 11 power R by 11 and 10 power 10 by 10 power R, right? Correct?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Yes. Sir.
So this is 10 power 10 by 11 into R into 11 by 10 to the power R, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes. Sir.
So this is a constant term.
Yeah.
So in the summation, this will not matter, right? And this is a this part is a GP and this part is an AP, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So this is an AGP,
Yeah.
right? So what I will do is required sum is equal to 10 power 10 by 11 into summation of R into 11 by 10 to the power R, where R goes from 1 to 10, right?
Yeah.
So now I'll focus only on this summation. This is the AGP, right?
Yeah.
So let's say that summation is called small s. So small s is equal to, I will write the terms first. 1 into 11 by 10 to the power 1 plus 2 into 11 by 10 to the power 2 and so on, right? Till 10 into 11 by 10 to the power 10, right? Now I will write S into common difference, the standard method of doing AGP, right?
Yeah.
S into 11 by 10, common ratio is 11 by 10, is equal to, I will shift it and write it, okay?
Yeah.
So I'll multiply every term by 11 by 10 and shift it and write it. So 1 into whole square plus 2 into 11 by 10 whole cube plus so on. 9 into 11 by 10 whole 10 plus 10 into 11 by 10 whole 11, right?
Yeah. Yes. Sir.
And when you now subtract it, what happens is this side becomes minus s by 10, right? Is equal to, this side becomes 11 by 10 plus, this is subtraction after subtraction, just becomes 11 by 10 square
Yeah.
plus 11 by 10 cube
Yeah.
and so on till 9 into, no, 9, 11 by 10 to the power 10 minus 10 into 11 by 10 to the power 11, right? Correct?
Yeah. So yeah.
So I will rub off some stuff on the top so that we can do it on this screen. So what we have now is another GP inside this AGP, right? This GP summation we'll have to do. Okay. So this summation is basically you can put this inside this also. You're starting with 11 by 10 plus 11 by 10 whole square plus so on till 11 by 10 whole to the power 10 minus 10 times 11 by 10 whole to the power 11, right?
Yeah.
This will be, first term is 11 by 10, 11 by 10. R is 11 by 10, so R power n, how many terms are there? 10 terms are there, no? 1 to 10 powers.
Yeah.
10 minus 1 by 11 by 10 minus 1, which is 1 by 10. So 10 gets cancelled. So 11 into this. So this is equal to 11 into 11 by 10 to the power 10 minus 11, right? And minus 10 into 11 by 10 to the power 11, right? So that becomes 11 times something minus 10 times something. So it is just 11 by 10 times 11 minus 11, right?
Yeah.
Right. This is the value of my minus s by 10, right?
Yeah.
So s is equal to multiplied by minus 10. So it becomes 110 minus 10 into 11 by 10 to the power 11, right? Correct?
Yeah.
And this s you have to multiply by 10 power 10 by 11, right? Right.
Yeah. Yes.
To get capital S. So 10 power 10 by 11 into 110 minus 10 power 10 by 11 into 10 into 11 power 11 by 10 power 11, right? So 10 power 11, 10 power 11 cancels. This is 11 power 10, right? And this becomes 11, no, this becomes 10. So 10 power 11 minus 11 power 10, correct? This is what I'm getting, okay? Which is slightly weird, right? I mean, I'm getting 10 power 11 minus 11 power 10 is the sum of this.
No, so if you only got 10 to the power 11, then the answer would be correct. Because the answer is 100.
Answer is 100.
Yeah, basically.
So maybe, have we made some mistake somewhere here? I hope I did not make some mistakes. 11 by 10. Oh, I think minus is correct only. 11 by 10 minus this. Hmm. 11 by 10 first term. R power n minus 1. So 11 by 10 to the power 10 minus 1 by 11 by 10 minus 1. So 1 by 10. 11 into this minus 10 into 11 by 10 to the power 11. 10 into 11. So 1 into 11 minus 11 multiply by 10 minus 10. So plus 110 minus 10 into multiply by 10 power 10 by 11. Hmm. Somewhere I made some mistake. Cannot find it in the screen. Wait. Let's try it one more time, but not, maybe some better, maybe we can figure out. 10 power 9 plus 2 into 11 power 1 and 10 power 8 till 10 into 11 power 9 is equal to k into 10 power 9. So, okay. 10 power 9, if I take common, it becomes 1 plus 2 into 11 power 1 by 10 power 1 plus 3 into 11 power 2 by 10 power 2 plus 10 into 11 power 9 by 10 power 9, right? Correct. So this is 1 plus 2r plus 3r square plus 10r power 9, right? Where r is equal to 11 by 10. Okay. So we just have to find the value of this. This is a simple, and because the left hand side is k into 10 power 9, no?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Right? So it's just this much we have to find, right? So this is, let's just do it. S is equal to 1 plus 2r plus 3r square plus 10r9. R into S is equal to r plus 2r square plus 9r9 plus 10r10. Subtracting 1 minus r into S is equal to 1 plus r square plus r power 9 minus 10 r power 10, right? Correct? So this becomes equal to this 1 to r power 9 has 10 terms. So it is equal to 1 into r power 10 minus 1 by r minus 1 minus 10 r power 10 is equal to 1 minus r into S. S is equal to r power 10 minus 1 by r minus 1 into 1 minus r. So minus 1 minus r whole square minus 10 r power 10 by 1 minus r, right? So now this will become equal to 11 by 10 to the power 10 minus 1 by minus 11, 1 minus 11 by 10. So minus 1 by 10, 10 by 10 minus 11 by minus 1 by 10 whole square. So minus 1 by 100 minus 10 into r power 10, 11 power 10 by 10 power 10 into minus 1 minus r is again minus 1 by 10, no? And there is a minus sign on top. So this is a plus now. So 10 square into, so I have a plus 10 square into 11 power 10 by 10 power 10. And here I have a, this minus sign makes this plus and this minus. This becomes 100 minus 100 into 11 power 10 by 10 power 10, right? Divided by 1 when you simplify this. Correct. And you have a plus 100 into 11 power 10 by 10 power 10. So this cancels this and answer is 100. You understand? It's just simple summation. Maybe I made some careless mistake in the previous one. It is, you took 10 power 9 common and you saw that this is a AGP. And as soon as became a AGP because of AP because of 1, 2, 3, GP because of R square, R cube, right? As soon as it become an AGP, the only method is to do it like this. Write S, write R into S, shift it and subtract. and find the sum of the resulting G. Okay.
Yeah, sir. That's all.
These are all the doubts. Huh? Okay. So right now,
So 1 second. Just 1 second.
huh, yeah.
Yeah, sir. Our teacher was teaching something called CIS in CIS in complex numbers. But that time I had some internet problem and I couldn't understand what service.
Okay, I will tell you that. That's nothing. Other than that, any problems that are doubts?
Yes, sir. Like we did start a competitive module yet.
Okay, so nothing is there. Okay, so complex numbers. Okay. So complex numbers, you have learned that uh, numbers are not just real numbers. Real numbers are where on the number line? This axis.
Yeah.
So all the real numbers can be put on this line, no? And this side is the negative real numbers, right? Any number here you can put, right? Are you understanding what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Every number, either rational or irrational, can be, you can find a spot for it on the real number line.
Yeah.
And that real number line can be plotted on the x-axis. But now what we will do is, this is just a one-dimensional type of number, right?
Yeah.
There is only one number that you need to know to fix that place, right? But if you go to this 2D plane, right? 2D plane, then you can have points which are ordered pairs of numbers, no? So this point, for example, is xy. This means it is x in this direction and y in this direction, right? So what about these points? What about any arbitrary point, 1, 5, -3, 2, right? Each of these points on the xy plane, no matter where it is, any quadrant, can be thought of as a complex number. Can be thought of as a complex number. So basically, complex number is just another extension of the real number system, right? So real number line was restricted to a line on the plane. And for complex numbers, as soon as you go complex numbers, you have full access to the entire plane, right? Complex numbers can be anywhere on the plane. They don't have to stay on a line, right? So now what we will do is we try to understand what is the meaning of a complex number. So complex number Z is defined as a ordered pair of real numbers. Ordered pair of real numbers, and it means Z, it is written as Z is equal to x plus iy, where I is a symbol that stands for root over -1, right? I is the square root of -1, correct? So now this z plus iy, this x comma y is z plus iy. This point or this line represents the complex number z. The complex number z can be thought of as either the point or this vector line. You understand? Tell me if you are not understanding something, okay?
Yes, sir.
So z is equal to x plus iy represents this complex number and it can be thought of as a point or a line. Now, what are the properties of, why are we first of all introducing some new numbers, right? Why are we introducing new numbers like complex numbers? That is one question. And the second question is, or second observation is that complex numbers are as real as real numbers. Just because sometimes it is called imaginary numbers and all, no, doesn't mean that it is not real or anything.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because real numbers was also something that we constructed.
Okay.
We have imagined real numbers, no?
Yeah.
Like it's not like real numbers are there in the world and we talk to them or interact with real numbers, right?
Yeah.
It is as imaginary as complex numbers, and also like it was in response to solving certain questions, solving certain equations, we had to introduce real numbers. Like for example, x plus 5 is equal to 7, right, was solvable by natural numbers, right? Natural numbers was sufficient to give the answer to this question, but x plus 7 is equal to 5 had no solutions in natural numbers, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So we had to go to the integers, right? Negative integers we had to introduce, right? Similarly, 3x is equal to 6 had solutions in integers, but 3x is equal to 7 had no solutions in integers. So we had to make up a new set of numbers called rational numbers. Correct?
Yeah.
Similarly, we had solutions for x square is equal to 4 in integers, but x square is equal to 2, we had no solutions, right? So then people thought of, okay, fine, let's define a new type of number called root of 2, or which is an irrational number. Irrational number was also something done in response to a problem that was not solvable earlier, right?
Yes, sir.
So,
Yeah.
so finally, basically, what are we doing? We have started from natural numbers and we are only constructing new types of numbers to deal with the requirements, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Integers, then rationals, then we went to irrationals, and rationals and irrationals together are called real numbers. Real numbers is just rational plus irrational. Now, there was another problem that had no solution in real numbers. So we have to extend this now to imaginary numbers or complex numbers,
Yes.
right? I, or plus minus I, you can say. So now we go up another step to solve this particular equation, right? So complex numbers are following the natural progression of how we constructed all the number sets, right? It's nothing very weird or imaginary or out of the world. It's as out of the world as irrational numbers are.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, so that is first. Second, why is it being introduced? It is being introduced because complex numbers will give us access to ideas like any point in the plane can be represented by complex numbers, no?
Yeah.
Now this point can be represented. So now vectors and all we can do using numbers. Like this is a line, this is a vector line from this point to this point, right? This is another line from this point to this point. So complex numbers are very useful in physics. In vectors, you can think of complex numbers as vectors. You go from one place to another place, one place to another place, then you have traveled from one complex number to another complex number.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And also in electric circuits, electric circuits and some applications in physics, complex numbers are everywhere. Like they are everywhere. Like if you don't have complex numbers, we would not have the circuits that you have in your house today. Like because the maths of complex numbers was important to understand the behavior of many of the basic circuits that you see in your home. Important for analyzing circuit behavior. So that is a real world application. That is why you need to know what is complex numbers. Once you understand this, it is actually fairly straightforward. You define it as an ordered pair of real numbers. So each complex number has two parts. One is a real part and one is an imaginary part. Again, the word imaginary is a bad word to choose. I mean, it's not imaginary. It's just called imaginary by convention. Okay. So these are two, this real part and this imaginary part of a complex number are both going to be real numbers. Okay. But together, the whole ordered pair represents a point in space. Ordered pair represents a point in space in 2D space. Now, how is that useful? That is useful because now you can define operations on these complex numbers. Z1 is suppose x1 comma y1 and z2 is suppose x2 comma y2. Then z3 is equal to z1 plus z2 will be a third point called x3 comma y3 such that what will happen? X3 is equal to right? You have learned addition of complex numbers, no? So Z3 is the third point, which is at x1. Basically, this is x1 plus x2, comma y1 plus y2. This is the third point. Okay. So similarly, addition is defined. Now we can understand it vectorially. In pictures, we can understand. So suppose you were at a complex number 1, comma 2, right? Okay. So this was my complex number Z1, right? Suppose there is another complex number here, Z2, which is 2, comma 1. Okay. So this is another complex number, right? Now, if I want to add Z1 plus Z2, right? Z1 plus Z2, think of a complex number as a vector. You have learned a little bit of vectors, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So for physics, you would have seen that, no?
Yeah.
So think of each complex number as a vector. So if I have to add this vector and this vector, right? What do I need to do? I can do some parallelogram law, but easier is to imagine like this. Just lift up this vector and transpose it here without changing the magnitude and direction, right? If you lift a vector and place it another place on the x-axis, without changing its direction and without changing its magnitude or length, then that is the same vector, right? Z2 only this is, right? And now you can imagine yourself going from origin to Z1 and from this point to Z2, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is like going two steps, right? So the resultant should be this vector.
Yeah. Yeah.
The resultant should be this vector. You could have gone to the same point Q by directly going instead of going like this and then like this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is the triangle law of addition. So you will come to a point Z3 by vector addition, and Z3 will definitely be 3, comma 3.
Yeah.
It is clear by logic that Z3 has to be 3, comma 3 because for the first vector you had gone 1 unit in X and 2 units in Y, right? And the second vector you are going 2 units in X and 1 unit in Y, right? The diagrams are not correct obviously, but don't care about that. You understand? So total in total you are going 3 units in both X and Y, right?
Yeah.
So that is why addition of complex numbers, similarly subtraction of complex numbers, all of it can be thought of as a vector operation, vector addition, vector subtraction. Okay, because complex numbers are points on the 2D space. Okay, So now multiplication. So the reason why I'm introducing it like this is because it helps you understand intuitively what the numbers are doing. I mean, I could have said complex number z is equal to x plus iy, and addition is defined as x1 plus x2 plus I times y1 plus y2, right? We could do the whole chapter using just pure algebra and not think about the physical implications of it. You understand?
Yes.
I can define z1 z2 is defined as you just multiply and you get x1 x2 minus y1 y2 plus I x1 y2 plus x2 y1, right? How do you multiply z1 z2? You do x1 plus I y1 into x2 plus I y2. So when you multiply it, simply multiply it. So it will be x1 x2 plus I times x1 y2 plus I times y1 x2 plus I square into y1 y2, right? And I square is equal to minus 1.
Yeah.
So now this will come, no, this one,
Yeah.
right? But if you just do the algebra, then you will miss out on a lot, because actually the usefulness of complex numbers is because it can represent vectors, it can represent points in space, and it can represent a lot of geometric ideas very well. So the more geometric your understanding of complex number is, the better it will be and the more problems you'll be able to solve. So don't just go by all the questions. If your teacher has done that, don't just follow that blindly, that all every time you put z is equal to x plus iy and go ahead, right?
Yeah. Yes.
That is not the best way to learn the chapter. Okay, so think of it as a vector, think of vector addition, think of what really is going to happen. So now what we will do is we'll try to understand complex numbers not just as vectors, but as a different, as a point in a different coordinate axis, different coordinate frame. So instead of xy coordinates, I'm going to use polar coordinates, which are called r comma theta. So I'll explain. So that will help us do the multiplication and division really well. So understanding multiplication and division operation using complex numbers is much harder. If you think of it as x plus iy and all, it will not work. You will not have any clue of why it is that. Okay, because think about it. If you were making up a number system, right? If you are making up a new system called complex numbers, right? Right, where z is equal to x plus iy, right? Correct. And that was an ordered pair xy. Are you understanding?
Yes, sir.
So tell me if you are not getting anything.
No, sir, I'm understanding.
So if xy, if the ordered pair you have to multiply with another ordered pair ab, the most natural way to multiply, or what I, if I was inventing complex numbers today, the most natural way I would have written ki answer should be xa and yb, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you are doing addition like this, x plus a comma y plus b, and subtraction like this, right?
Yeah.
Then why not multiplication and division also like this, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
That is a genuine question, where why is it defined in that weird way? The definition of xy multiplied by ab, actually it is supposed to be xa minus yb and xb plus ya. This is the answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now why did someone invent it like this? Like, that is totally weird. Why is he doing so much effort, right? So that is the point. Look, why has it come like this, and the reason for that. So to understand the reason, we have to go geometrically and we have to think about uh, complex numbers in a polar coordinate frame. Polar coordinates means, I'll just explain. So any point in the xy axis, right?
Yeah.
this is xy coordinates. So what does it mean? It means that this distance is y and this distance is x, right? Now, if I wanted to specify this point P, there was another way that I could have specified it. I could have specified it by telling you this distance is r and this angle is theta, right?
Yeah.
If I tell you the distance of the point from the origin and the angle in which that line goes, right?
Yeah.
Then you will be able to mark that point, no?
Yeah. Yes.
Right? If I just tell you distance, you will not be able to mark it, right?
Yeah.
Because it could be anywhere, right? On a circle.
Yeah. Yes.
But if I just tell you angle, then also it is not enough because it can be anywhere on that line, right?
Yeah.
But if I tell you both the things, you'll be able to mark it exactly, right? Basically, what we have is P can be written as r comma theta also, right? Where r comma theta is related to P x comma y in this way, x is equal to r cos theta and y is equal to r sin theta, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Correct. That is obvious from the figure. So tan theta basically is equal to y by x and r is equal to root over x square plus y square, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So basically these two versions are interchangeable. These two versions are interchangeable. R theta is basically the same as x comma y, right?
Yeah.
Correct. So if now my complex number was written as z is equal to x plus iy, I can also write it as r cos theta plus I into r sin theta. The same complex number, because x was equal to r cos theta and y was equal to r sin theta. So z can now be written as r into cos theta plus I sin theta, right? Correct? Makes sense. So this is that cis thing that your teacher is saying, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Correct. The z can be also represented as cos theta plus I sin theta, no? R into cos theta plus I sin theta, right? That follows simply from writing x comma y not as x comma y but as r cos theta comma r sin theta, right?
Yeah.
So you can write your complex number z in terms of r and theta. Now here we have to think about one important theorem that a great mathematician called Euler proved in the 1700s. E power I theta is equal to cos theta plus I sin theta. Now this is what he proved. Okay, so the way it comes is e power x. E power x can be thought of as this particular series, 1 plus x by 1 factorial. Factorial, have you heard of ever?
Yeah, sir.
Okay. X square by 2 factorial plus x cube by 3 factorial plus so on. Okay.
So we use this to prove the logarithm series.
So e power x is this. Okay. And if you put e power x as this, then e power I theta, instead of x, if I put I theta, what happens? 1 plus I theta by 1 factorial plus I theta whole square by 2 factorial plus I theta whole cube by 3 factorial plus I theta whole power 4 by 4 factorial plus I theta whole power 5 by 5 factorial and so on, right? Now, in this, if you write it like this, that this is 1 plus I theta by 1, I square is what? Minus 1, no?
Yeah.
So minus theta square by 2 factorial, and I cube will be minus I because I square is minus 1.
Yeah.
So minus I into theta cube by 3 factorial plus I power 4 will be 1. So plus theta 4 by 4 factorial. I power 5 will be I, theta 5 by 5 factorial, and so on, right? So now do one thing, why don't we collect the terms that don't have I, and the terms that have I will keep separately. So this e power I theta becomes equal to 1 minus theta square by 2 factorial plus theta power 4 by 4 factorial minus theta power 6 by 6 factorial, and so on, plus I common, and this becomes, the I terms are theta minus theta 3 by 3 factorial plus theta 5 by 5 factorial minus theta 7 by 7 factorial, and so on. This will come as the I terms, right? Now this is how you are getting e power I theta. Now the thing is that, again, this is also calculus that you don't know right now, but there is a series for cos x and a sin x. Cos x and sin x can be written as infinite series. Okay, there is a theorem called Taylor's theorem. Taylor's theorem, I can tell you what it is, wait. So Taylor's theorem, if you have any function fx, okay, any function f of x, it can be written as f of 0 plus x power 1 by 1 factorial into f dash 0 plus x square by 2 factorial into f double dash 0 plus x cube by 3 factorial into f triple dash 0, and so on. Now what is this? First of all, what is f dash? F dash is derivative, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Derivative of that function, and put the value 0 in the derivative. Okay.
Yeah.
This is double derivative and then put the value 0 in it. Okay. This is triple derivative, put the value 0 in it. Okay. So again, this can be proved by slightly advanced calculus. Right now you don't need to know the proof, you just need to know the Taylor theorem says this. Okay. So let's say fx is equal to sin x, right? Correct. So let's write the Taylor series expansion of sin x. Okay. So what is sine of 0? This is f of 0, no? Sine of 0 is 0 plus x power 1 by 1 factorial. What is derivative of sine x is cos x, and f dash 0 will be therefore 1 into 1. What is the double derivative of double derivative of sin x will be minus sin x, no? And f double dash 0 will be 0, right? And triple derivative would be minus cos x, correct? And f triple dash 0 will be minus 1, right? So notice now what is happening. X squared by 2 factorial into double derivative 0, f double dash 0, which is 0, and plus x cubed by 3 factorial into triple dash 0 is minus 1, right? So the series is becoming what? Sin x is equal to x minus x cubed by 3 factorial plus x5 by 5 factorial, and so on. Okay.
This is e to the power minus 1 minus x.
So earlier when we had written e power I theta, right?
Yeah.
That series was coming as 1 minus theta square by 2 factorial plus theta power 4 by 4 factorial, and so on, right? Plus I times theta minus theta cube by 3 factorial plus theta 5 by 5 factorial, and so on, right? So clearly this, if you put x instead of x, if I put theta, this is the sine theta, right?
Yeah.
And I can prove, you can apply Taylor's formula and prove that Taylor series for cos x will be 1 minus x square by 2 factorial plus x power 4 by 4 factorial, and so on. Same thing, the way we did sin x, same thing you do for cos x also. Take all the derivatives and values at 0. Okay. So Taylor series of this is cos theta, this is cos theta. So you can prove now that e power I theta is cos theta plus I sin theta. So now remember, we'll track back to our complex number. This point Pxy was written as P r cos theta comma r sin theta, right? And Z was written as, here this distance was r and this angle was theta, right? The angle theta in the polar coordinates is drawn from the positive x-axis. Positive x-axis. Okay. So this side, this is the angle. So you can write your complex number Z as r cos theta plus I r sin theta, and you can take r common and it becomes cos theta plus I sin theta. And now you can say that this is one form. This is called the polar form, polar or trigonometric form of a complex number. Trigonometric form. And you can also form an exponential form or Euler form. You can say, because cos theta plus I sin theta is equal to e power I theta, right? So now you can write Z as r into e power I theta, right? This is the Euler form. Okay, these are both same things because this is identity, right? But now you will realize that this form is super useful, because now see, if I write some complex number Z1, right? Z1 complex number will be completely specified if I tell you R1 and theta 1, right? If I tell you some distance is 5 and theta is 60, right? You will be able to find the point, no? So once you find the point, then you know your x and y, right?
Yes, sir.
If I give you R1 and theta 1, you will be able to find x and y, because R1 will be equal to root over x square plus y square. And okay, that is not the useful relation here. You can say that simply x is equal to r1 cos theta 1 and y is equal to r1 sin theta 1, right? So if you can find from r1 theta 1, if you can find x and y, then you can write complex number as x plus iy, right? So you completely know the complex number if you give r1 theta 1. So then we can write it as r1 e power I theta 1, right? Because see, this is the form, right? Correct. So understand this Euler form. Euler form uses two things. It uses distance from the origin, which is the R1, and it also uses the angle that the complex number makes, this line from origin to that complex number makes with the positive x-axis, right? So these two pieces of information are what is employed in the polar form of the complex number. So now what we will do is, I will give you two complex numbers and you will tell me the multiplication. So one complex number is 3 comma pi by 4 and other complex number is 5 comma pi by 3, right? Or pi by 4. Let's keep it as pi by 4 only. Okay. Okay, so now what is 3 comma pi by 4? This is r is equal to 3, no?
Yeah.
And this angle is equal to pi by 4, right?
Yeah.
Correct? And the figure is not correct. Don't, okay, fine, I'll draw a better figure. 1 second. One complex number is 3 comma pi by 6. Other complex number is 4 comma pi by 3. Okay. So this angle is 60. This angle is 30, right? These are my complex numbers. Okay. Now, what is the meaning of r is equal? This is r1 is equal to 3 and theta 1 is equal to pi by 6, right? And this is r2 is equal to 4 and theta 2 is equal to pi by 3, right? So now let's call it z2 and let's call it z1, right? Now z1 can be written as what? r1 e power I theta 1, right? That is equal to 3 e power I theta 1 is what? Pi by 6. And z2 can be written as what? r2 e power I theta 2, which is equal to 4 e power I pi by 3. So product of the numbers would be what? Multiplication of these two, right? So that will simply be 12 e power I pi by 6 plus pi by 3, right? So that will be pi by 2. And e power I theta, now you can represent it as, first of all, already you know the answer. You know answer will be at 90-degree angle, right? It will be at 90-degree angle, so it will be on this y-axis and at a distance of 12 units. This is the final point, by the way. And you can write it in terms of cos pi by 2 plus I sin pi by 2, which makes it 12, 0 plus I sin pi by 2 is 1. So it is, answer is 12i. E power I by I pi by 2 is equal to basically I. Does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
E power I 0 would be 1. E power I pi would be minus 1.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So multiplication has a very nice meaning in complex numbers. It's rotation plus stretching.
Yeah.
Multiplication is rotation plus scaling. Rotation plus scaling. So what is rotation part? Rotation part is fairly clear. If you have two complex numbers like this and multiplied by another complex number like this, right? The final complex number will be R1, R2 into e power I theta 1 plus theta 2, no?
Yeah.
So if I started off with some theta 1 and another angle theta 2, final complex number will be the addition of these two angles wherever it comes, right?
Yeah.
So you are turning the theta 1, turning this vector by an additional angle this and going to this new place, right? So that is a rotation part. And scaling part means what? Original vector was at a distance r1, second vector was at a distance r2, this third vector is at a distance r1 into r2. This is the new capital R, new capital theta, no? For the product vector, right? So capital R, if it is greater, R1, R2 is greater than individual R1 or R2, that means basically you have stretched the whole vector, right? You have increased the magnitude. The length you have increased, no? So multiplication is rotation plus scaling. If I multiply it by same type of angles, total angle increases. It could also be that I have some negative angle. Negative angle means rotation in the opposite direction. This side angles are taken as positive, this side angles are taken as negative, right? So if I had 2 e power I pi by 2 and 3 e power I minus I pi by 3, right? So it will just be 6 e power I pi by 2 minus pi by 3 is 90 minus 60, so 30, right? This is my answer. You understand? It is very easy if you think of it as a polar form, Euler form, correct? Now you can also prove something called De Moivre's theorem. Has it been discussed in class?
No, sir, but it's there in my book.
So you can also prove something very nice. For example, let's say we have three complex numbers or two complex numbers. R1 is Z1 is equal to R1 e power I theta 1. Z2 is equal to R2 e power I theta 2, right? So Z1, Z2 is equal to what? Is equal to R1, R2 e power I theta 1 plus theta 2, right? Correct?
Yeah.
So now what can we do here? We can write it like this. R1, R2 e power I theta 1 plus theta 2 can be written as theta 1 plus theta 2 plus I sine theta 1 plus theta 2, right? And this side, if you do simple multiplication of this, right? So notice that this Z1 could have been written as R1 cos theta 1 plus I sine theta 1, and Z2 could have been written as R2 cos theta 2 plus I sine theta 2, right? So Z1, Z2, if you directly multiply, what will come? R1, R2, and you have to multiply these. So it will be cos theta 1, cos theta 2, minus sin theta 1, sin theta 2, plus I times cos theta 1, sin theta 2, plus cos theta 2, sin theta 1, right? This long thing will come, no?
Yeah.
This is Z1, Z2 on the LHS, and this is Z1, Z2 on the RHS. So R1, R2 will get cancelled when you equate them.
Yeah.
And you can say that if two complex numbers are equal, then real part and imaginary part must both be equal, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Makes sense. So what we get is we can derive our trigonometric formulas. So real part of this is what? Cos theta 1 plus cos theta 2, right? And that should be equal to what? Right? Isn't this something that you had to learn in trigonometry?
Yes.
Right? So the proof of this is now obvious using complex numbers. And similarly, you get the sine theta 1 plus sine theta 2 formula also. Correct?
Yeah.
Now take the special case. Take the special case when Z1 was equal to Z2, right? So R1 is equal to R2 and theta 1 is equal to theta 2, right? So this becomes Z square, right? Correct? Z1 is equal to Z2, no? So it is Z1 square or something, right?
Yeah.
So Z1 square is equal to R1 square cos 2 theta plus I sine 2 theta, right? Right? Correct, no?
Yeah, sir. Yeah.
So what we are getting is Z square is equal to cos Z1 square is what? So I'll write it here. Z1 square is equal to, you're getting R1 square cos 2 theta plus I sine 2 theta. And if you write it like this, that R1 cos theta plus I sine theta whole square, right, is equal to R1 square cos 2 theta plus I sine 2 theta, right? So then R1 square can get cancelled and you have a new result which says cos theta plus I sine theta whole square will be equal to cos 2 theta plus I sine 2 theta, right? You understand what is happening?
Yeah, sir.
This is called De Moivre's theorem. De Moivre's theorem basically says that if you have cos theta plus I sine theta, right, and if you raise it to the power m, it will become cos of m theta plus I sine of m theta. Okay. Why does it happen? Because actually raising it to the power m means multiplying m times. Right?
Yeah.
So you are basically doing z into z into z into z m times, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you will get on the other side, if you write everything in Euler form, you'll get r power m e power I theta plus theta plus theta m times, no?
Yeah.
So that will become r power m e power I m theta, and that can be written as r power m cos m theta plus I sine of m theta, right?
Yeah.
And on this side you will get this expression.
Yeah.
You can cancel the r power m and all and say that this is the result. Cos theta plus I sine theta whole power m can be simply written as cos m theta plus I sine m theta, right?
Yeah.
So so this can help you derive many new identities, by the way. So for example, cos theta plus I sine theta whole power 4, suppose, right, should be equal to cos 4 theta plus I sine 4 theta, right?
Yes, sir.
Now if you expand this, you will get the answer for cos 4 theta, no? New formula you will make, right?
Yes, sir.
Expand this and collect all the real terms, right? Do you know binomial theorem?
Yes, sir.
You don't know, no?
Not yet.
Okay, so if you don't know binomial theorem, we'll learn it soon. But how do you expand this? You can do cos theta plus I sine theta whole square and whole square of that, right?
Yeah.
So what is the whole square of this? This we already know from the previous result in De Moivre's theorem. You can say this is cos 2 theta plus I sine 2 theta, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And whole square. If I have to do whole square, then actually then that will come as the same thing. I want to do it properly. You will have to do it properly. So like this, you can do a square plus b square plus 2ab. You can apply, no?
Yeah.
So this will be cos square 2 theta plus I sine 2 theta whole square plus 2 into cos 2 theta into I sine 2 theta, right? Right?
Yeah.
So this will become cos square 2 theta minus sine square 2 theta, right? Plus, okay, this didn't help because I used this. Okay, I should not have used this. I should have just done cos square theta minus sine square theta plus I into 2 sine theta cos theta and the whole thing square, right?
Yes.
So whole thing square, it will be complicated, but what I'm saying is collect all the I terms together, this side whatever I terms together and non-imaginary terms together, and that you can equate with cos 4 theta, right?
Okay, sir. Yeah.
So cos 4 theta is anyway not very difficult because see, this is correct, by the way. What I'm getting here is correct because I'm getting I sine 4 theta here. 2 cos 2 theta into sine 2 theta, right?
Yeah.
And this is cos 4 theta only.
Yeah. Yes.
But it was not a very useful identity. You can basically derive nice things using the De Moivre's theorem, nice things in trigonometry. You have the De Moivre's theorem says that this power m is equal to cos m theta plus I sine m theta. And it is a direct consequence of writing e power I theta as r into cos theta plus I sine theta.
Yes.
So as soon as you know that Euler form you can express a number as, then raising it to powers and all is a trivial task. Correct? Okay. So we have done a lot. Now we'll do division. What is the meaning of division? So Z1 by Z2 will be R1 by R2 e power I theta 1 by e power I theta 2, right?
Yeah.
So it will be R1 by R2 e power I theta 1 minus theta 2, no?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is a new complex number with this is the value of its R and this is the value of its theta, right? So basically what is happening? It is turning it in the opposite direction, no? Division.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you have some complex number, this is R1 theta 1, right? And this is R2 theta 2, right? So this is theta 2 and this distance is R2, right? So then new complex number will be at an angle theta 1 minus theta 2, right? So some reduced angle, this angle is theta 1 minus theta 2, right? Correct? And the value, the distance of the complex number is also lower. It will be somewhere here only because the lengths have to be divided, no?
Yeah. Yes.
So it is basically again rotation plus scaling, but the rotation is in the opposite direction of a multiplication, right?
Yeah. Yes. Sir.
And scaling is also reducing instead of stretching, right?
Yeah.
So now what we have learned is how to understand addition, multiplication, division and subtraction of complex numbers in a geometric way. The first thing we saw was vectors were good ways to represent complex numbers, and vector addition and vector subtraction is a good way to understand what is happening to the addition of complex numbers. And then what we saw was the polar form of representing a point in space. And through polar form, you can write x comma y as r cos theta comma r sin theta. And because of which you get the same pxy, which was z is equal to x plus iy, can be written as r cos theta plus I sin theta. And
if you know Euler's result that e power I theta is equal to cos theta plus I sin theta, then this becomes the polar form. Any complex number z can be now written as z is equal to r e power I theta, which helps us understand multiplication and division really well.
Yes,
So
sir.
from there, now what we will do in the next class and so on is we will do some geometric properties. We'll stop here right now because these geometric properties are a whole new thing. So geometric properties we'll do roots of unity. What is the meaning of geometric properties? Notions of angles, angles, distances, and
Yeah.
stuff using complex numbers. Roots of unity means how do you find, say, for example, 7 roots of -3 or 1 or whatever, right?
Okay.
Many roots of unity. This is another thing. And then what we will do is uh, some what else is there? Nothing much is there. These are the two major things that are there. But what you should do in the meantime is practice as many questions as possible, and familiarize yourself with the Euler form. Learn how to use it. Okay. Familiarize yourself with whatever we learned today. What I can do is I can send you the complex number, some practice questions and sets,
Yeah,
right?
sir.
From motion, I can send you exercise 1, and you can try those as well as your school books. Okay.
Sir, I have a
And
small doubt, sir.
yeah, yeah.
Sir, why is I square equal to -1? Like,
Because I is equal to root minus 1.
yeah, sir. So if you multiply -1 and -1, shouldn't it be 1?
You're not multiplying -1 and -1. You're multiplying I into I, no?
Yeah, sir. So they come under the same root, right?
Root of -1 into root of -1 is what? -1, no?
Yeah, sir.
Huh?
So like, not like,
Isn't it root -1 whole square now?
yeah. I don't know what I was thinking, sir.
So this is,
Yes, sir. Yeah.
if something is equal to root 2, then x square is equal to what?
Yeah, sir. But like, if you're multiplying root 2 and root 3, it becomes
Hmm.
root 6, right?
Yes.
So if you multiply root -1 and root -1,
Hmm.
it become root -1 into -1, right?
Root -1 into minus. No. So the point is that uh, if you had to do, if you had to find root of 1, then you have no issues, no?
Yeah.
Then why would you do I? You will not you will not split root of 1 as root -1 into root -1, no?
Yeah.
I means root -1 and I square means -1. That is the new thing that has come. If you had to do root of 1 only, then why would you do I?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah.
You are converting it to 1 and saying it should be 1. But root 1 you already know is plus or minus 1. You know two roots of root 1.
Okay, sir. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, sir. I got it.
So now there is a new thing. If the question was x square is equal to -1, now what? So you have defined something called I, which is -1 to the power half
Yeah.
for that question. Not for normal real numbers, and also you know how to do root of 1, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah.
This is a new thing to handle this question.
Yeah.
And anyway, this is not the main thing. The main thing is I I is equal to root minus 1, that's fine, but any point is being written as this is the x coordinate and this is the y coordinate and this is the I axis. This is the I, everything here is in I. So this is 1i, 2i, 3i, and so on. And minus 1i, minus 2i, minus 3i. If you are writing a particular point, then that point is at some place in space, right? 3 comma 4. That means you have to go 3 units in x and 4 units in y, so plus 4i. This is like a vector addition now. This is my z is equal to 3 plus 4i. This is the meaning. This is the meaning of a complex number. If you have just I in the complex number 2i, that means you just went to this point, 0 comma 2i. Like, think of it as points in space rather than some numbers to multiply. This is just a symbol. Think of it as points in space. Think of it geometrically. Don't think of it as some algebraic thing that you have to manipulate. Okay. And I will send you some stuff, read that, and hopefully you can start practicing some questions. Do the exercises that are in your school book and all. And after that, try the motion sheets also.
Yeah, sir, I finished NCRT.
Okay, so NCRT is very trivial. So we need to get to a slightly higher level.
Yes, sir.
Right? NCRT was easy, no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I will send you some stuff. Just send me a reminder message if I've forgotten by tonight. Okay. I will just send you by tonight.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Bye. So next class will be on Saturday only. Okay.
Okay, sir. Yeah.
Saturday, we can do our class at regular time.
Okay, sir.
2 p.m. is our time, no?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Bye.